The market was loud and full of strange voices. Creatures of all kinds were trapped in metal cages. Some screamed, some cried, and some just sat quietly. But in the smallest cage, there was a tiny alien girl. Her skin was soft and silver-like. The moonlight, her hair was thin and white, and her big blue eyes glowed faintly. She was not making any noise, but her eyes showed pure fear. She kept her knees close to her chest, trying to look smaller. I had heard many stories about humans. Stories that said humans captured little aliens like her and ate them. The girl had seen friends taken away by humans. None of them ever returned, so she believed the stories must be true. Today, many humans were walking around the market. They looked at the cages. Some laughed, some pointed, but none stopped at her cage for long. The merchant who owned her shouted, "Rare species, small but smart, buy now." But no one cared. They said she looked weak and useless. The little girl felt cold, both inside and out. She knew soon someone might take her. And that would be the end. Then a shadow stopped in front of her cage. She looked up slowly, her eyes trembling. A tall human man stood there. He had short brown hair and a rough beard. His eyes were not like the others. They didn't look cruel or hungry. Dead. They looked curious, almost sad. The merchant smiled. "Ah, sir. This one? Useless? Scared of everything? But I'll give you a good price." The man kneeled down to look closer. The little girl shivered and covered her face with her small hands. She didn't want to see his eyes. She didn't want to know when he would grab her. The man didn't move. He just watched her for a while. Finally, he asked the merchant, "Why is she so scared?" The merchant laughed. "Because she knows what happens to her kind. They think we eat them." The man's eyes softened. "That's sad," he whispered. Then he stood up. "I'll take her." The merchant was surprised but happy. "Good choice, sir. She's cheap because she's so small and quiet." The man paid the credits and the merchant unlocked the cage. The girl's heart raced. She wanted to run. But her legs felt too weak. She closed her eyes tight, waiting for the worst. But instead of rough hands, she felt herself being lifted gently. The man wrapped her in a warm blanket. His arms were strong, but his grip was soft. She didn't understand why was he not hurting her. The man carried her to his ship all the way. She kept her eyes shut, she thought. Maybe he's waiting until we're alone. Maybe then he'll eat me. On the ship, the man placed her on a soft bed. He brought a small bowl of warm soup. "Eat," he said kindly, but she turned her head away. She didn't trust him. She would not eat anything he gave her. What if it was poison? The man sighed but didn't force her. Instead, he sat in a chair across the room. He started working on some tools, fixing a small device. Hours passed. The girl watched him secretly through small gaps in the blanket. He didn't even look at her. He just worked, and sometimes hummed a soft song. She didn't know what to think. Why wasn't he doing anything bad? Night came, and the ship was quiet. The man looked over and said, "Good night, little star." Then he went to sleep on another bed far away. The girl was confused. What did he call me? Little star. No one had ever called her anything sweet before. She had always been a number, a thing, not a person, she whispered to herself. Little star. It sounded nice, but she still didn't trust him. She stayed awake most of the night, waiting, watching, afraid. The next morning, the man was cooking something. A smell filled the air. Warm and tasty, her stomach growled, but she held it. She wouldn't eat, not until she was sure. He placed a plate near her and said, "If you're hungry, it's here." Then he sat back. Down to work again, the girl watched him closely. She didn't understand this human. He wasn't like the stories. He didn't have sharp teeth. He didn't roar. He didn't even come close, unless needed. Hours passed again, and she felt weaker. Her stomach hurt from hunger. She looked at the plate, and at the man. He wasn't watching. Carefully, she reached out and took a small bite. It tasted good, and nothing bad happened. She ate more, slowly, still watching him, but he just kept working. Then, suddenly, he looked up and smiled. "Good you're eating," he said gently. She froze. But he didn't move, didn't come closer. He just smiled and went back to work. The little girl didn't know what to think. She was still scared, but also curious. Who was this human? Why was he different? And what did he want from her? She didn't have the answers yet, but for the first time, she felt a tiny light of hope in her heart. Maybe, just maybe. Well, she wasn't going to be eaten after all. Nova didn't know when she had fallen asleep. For the first time in days, she had eaten something. Her tiny body felt warmer, but her heart was still heavy with fear. When she opened her eyes, she wasn't in a cage anymore. She was lying on a soft bed with a clean blanket over her, around her. The room was filled with odd objects, shiny tools, glowing lights, and screens that blinked quietly. It looked nothing like the cold market. She sat up slowly, her silver hands clutching the blanket. Then she heard footsteps. Her small body tensed up. Her eyes darted to the door. The human, the same one who bought her, entered the room. He carried a tray with more food and a cup of something steaming. When his eyes met hers, he smiled. "Morning, little star," he said, placing the tray on a small table. She stared at him, too scared to speak, but her stomach betrayed her with another loud growl. He chuckled softly. "You're hungry. I can hear it." Nova glanced at the tray, then at the man. She whispered in her small voice, You still not eat me?" The man sat on a chair looking surprised. "No," he replied. "I told you, I don't eat people." Nova's hands tightened on the blanket. "But humans eat my kind," she said, her voice shaking. The man shook his head slowly. "Maybe some do. But I'm not one of them." His words were strange to her. How could a human be different? She didn't understand, but she wanted to. "Why? Buy me then?" she asked. The man looked thoughtful for a moment. "My name's Leo," he said. "I was a soldier once, fought many battles, saw many terrible things." He looked down at his hands. "But one day, I saw a small alien child being taken away, crying, scared, and I couldn't stop them." Leo's voice became softer. "I promised myself, if I ever got the chance, I'd save one." "But—" Then he looked at her with kind eyes. "You're—" That one little star Nova didn't know what to say. She didn't know if she could believe him, but his eyes. They didn't look like the eyes of a monster. They looked sad and gentle. She looked at the food again. Her body wanted it. Her mind was still scared. Leo saw her struggle and pushed the tray closer. "It's safe, I promise." Slowly, Nova crawled forward. She picked up a piece of bread and sniffed it. It smelled nice. She took a small bite, then another. Soon she was eating with more confidence. Leo smiled, watching her. "What's your name?" he asked gently. Nova paused. "No name," she whispered. "They call me number 6. Leo frowned. "That's not a name. That's just a number." He thought for a moment, then smiled again. "I'll call you Nova. It means new star." She repeated it. Slowly, Nova. It felt nice. No one had given her a name before. She hugged the blanket tightly, feeling something strange in her chest. Leo stood up and walked to a shelf. He returned with a small object. It was a music box, old but shiny. He turned the key and soft music filled the room. Nova's ears perked up, her eyes wide with wonder. "What is that?" she asked quietly. "It's music," Leo said. "A sound that makes people feel happy or calm." She tilted her head. Watching the spinning figures on the box, she had never seen or heard anything like it. It wasn't scary, it was beautiful. "Would you like to try?" Leo asked. Nova nodded shyly. He showed her how to turn the key when the music started again. She smiled. It was a small smile, but it was real. Leo laughed gently. "See? You're already learning new things for the first time." Nova didn't feel like a prisoner. She didn't feel like a thing in a cage. This place was strange, but it was warm. And Leo... He was strange too, but he was kind. She still didn't understand him fully. But she wanted to. She wanted to know why a human would be so gentle that night. As Leo fixed parts of his ship, Nova sat nearby. She watched him, curious. "Why? Call me little star," she asked. Leo looked up with a smile. "Because when I first saw you, you looked like a little star lost in the dark." Nova thought about that. She was always in the dark, always scared, but maybe She wasn't lost anymore when it was time to sleep. Leo pointed to the bed. You can sleep there. It's safe. Nova laid down slowly, still watching him. Before she closed her eyes, she whispered, "Thank you." Leo, it was the first time she had ever thanked anyone. Leo smiled and whispered back, "Good night, Nova." As she drifted to sleep, the music box still played softly for the first time. Nova didn't dream of cages or monsters. She dreamed of stars and a strange human who called her little star Asterisk. The stars outside the ship blinked like tiny eyes in the dark sky. Nova sat by the small window, her knees tucked under her chin. She had never seen stars like these before. She didn't know they could be so beautiful, but the beauty outside didn't erase the confusion inside her heart. Days had passed since Leo brought her here. He never locked her, never shouted, and never touched her without asking, yet still, Nova didn't fully understand him. She watched him every day as he fixed machines, cooked food, or talked to himself sometimes, played the music box just to make the room feel warmer. She liked the sound, though she never said it out loud. Then one afternoon, Leo sat on the floor repairing a strange device. Nova quietly moved closer, sitting a few steps away. She watched his hands work, his fingers gentle even with metal. She wondered how such big hands could be so soft. Suddenly Leo chuckled. "You know, little star. It's funny," he said. "You sit there watching me, but never speak." Nova hugged her knees tighter. She wanted to speak, but fear held her tongue. Yet deep inside, a question burned in her mind. She tried to push it down, but it refused to stay. Hidden, her voice was tiny, shaky, but she finally asked, "Why? You not eat me yet?" Leo stopped working. He looked at her with wide eyes, then smiled sadly. "I told you before, I don't eat people, Nova." Nova looked down, her silver fingers playing with the blanket. "But others, they eat us," she whispered. "Maybe some do," Leo admitted. "But I'm not like them." Nova looked up, her big blue eyes searching his face. "Why you? Different?" she asked softly. Leo leaned back, sighing. "I was a soldier once, Nova," he began. "I did bad things because I thought I was supposed to." His eyes looked distant, like he was remembering something painful. "But then I saw innocent ones like you getting hurt. Scared, taken away." He looked back at her. "I couldn't do it anymore, so I left." Nova listened, her heart feeling heavy. She never thought humans could feel guilty, but Leo's voice wasn't lying. She could feel it now, he continued. "I just try to fix things. Machines, ships, maybe even myself." He smiled weakly. "And maybe by saving you, I can fix a small piece of my soul." His words were strange to Nova, but they made her chest feel warm. She didn't know what a soul was, but she liked that he wanted to fix himself. "You fix broken things," she said, pointing at the machine. Leo laughed. "Yes, exactly." Nova tilted her head. "Am I broken too?" Leo's eyes softened. "No, Nova, you're not broken," he said. "You're scared, but not broken," she thought about. That for a moment, no one had ever said that to her before. All her life, others called her weak, useless, broken, but now someone said she wasn't. It felt nice. She looked at the machine in his hands. "What is that?" she asked. Leo smiled, happy to hear her asking more. "It's a communicator," he explained. "It lets ships talk to each other in space." Nova's eyes widened. "Talk? Like voices?" "Exactly," Leo nodded. Even when they're far apart, Nova was fascinated. She crawled a little closer. Can I learn?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Leo's face lit up with a bright smile. "Of course, little star," he said. "I'll teach you." From that day, every afternoon, Leo showed Nova his tools. He taught her the names of wires, buttons, and gadgets. She listened carefully, though sometimes she didn't understand. Still, Leo was patient, never scolding, only encouraging. "You're smart," he said once. "Much smarter than most adults I know." Nova felt pride in her heart, a feeling she never knew before. At night, when she lay in bed, she replayed the things she learned. She thought about wires, stars, and voices traveling through space. But most of all, she thought about Leo's smile. It wasn't scary. It was warm. Maybe humans weren't all monsters. Maybe Leo was different. One evening while they were eating, Nova whispered, "You teach me music too?" Leo looked surprised and laughed joyfully. "Of course, little star," he said. "You'll be making songs in no time that night." Nova sat beside the music box. She turned the key with her tiny hands. Soft notes filled the room. She closed her eyes and let the sound carry her away for the first time. Her mind was not filled with fear, but with curiosity, wonder, and a strange new thing called hope. She wasn't just a number anymore. She was Nova, and maybe she could be more. The music box spun slowly, filling the room with soft, sweet sounds. Nova sat on the floor, her silver fingers gently turning the key again and again. She liked the way the tiny figures inside danced as the music played. It made her feel less empty, less scared. She didn't know why. But she wanted to hear the music forever. Leo watched her from his chair, a smile hidden beneath his short beard. It had been many days since he brought Nova from the market. Each day she spoke a little more, asked more questions, and smiled just a bit wider. He was proud of her, even if she didn't know it yet, but something bothered him, something small but important. "Nova," Leo said, his voice gentle. She looked up. With her bright blue eyes, "Do you really have no name?" he asked. She shook her head. "No," she replied quietly. "Only number 6, Leo frowned. "That's not a name, little star," he said. "You deserve a real name, something that's yours." Nova tilted her head, curious. "Why is name important?" she asked. Leo leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. "A name tells the world who you are," he explained. "It means you're not just a number or a thing, you're a person, special and real." Nova hugged her knees, thinking about his words. No one had ever made her feel like a person before. She was always just 6, not special, not important. It's just another creature in a cage. Leo stood up and walked to a shelf. He picked up a small star-shaped pendant made of metal and glass, returned to Nova, and knelt in front of her. "I found this long ago on another planet." He said it reminded me of the stars, of something new and bright. He placed the pendant gently into Nova's hands. "I want you to keep it," he said, "and I want to give you a name. That's okay with you?" Nova stared at the pendant. The little star catching the light, it sparkled softly. She looked back at Leo, her voice a whisper. "What? Name?" Leo smiled. "Nova," he said. "It means a new star. A star that is born and shines brightly in the dark sky." Nova repeated the word slowly. Nova. It sounded soft, beautiful, and hers. She held the star pendant close to her chest. "I like." "Nova," she said shyly. Leo laughed gently, his eyes warm. "Then it settled, you're Nova, for the first time." Nova felt like she had something precious, a name, a star, in a place where she wasn't just a number. Her heart felt light, like a feather floating on a breeze. She smiled, a real smile, one that reached her glowing eyes that night. Leo showed Nova how to wear the pendant around her neck. "It will remind you of who you are," he said. Nova touched the little star often, feeling its shape with her fingers. It was cold but comforting, like a promise that she was no longer just number 6. She was Nova, and Nova was special. Days passed, and Nova's world grew bigger. Leo taught her more words, more names of tools and machines. She learned to identify wires, buttons, and blinking lights. Sometimes she made mistakes. But Leo never got angry. He only laughed and said, "Learning takes time, little star." One afternoon, while fixing a small drone, Leo asked, "Nova, do you know what you want to be someday?" She looked at him, confused. "What I want to be?" she asked. "Yes," Leo smiled. "You can be anything you want. A pilot, an explorer, a builder, anything." "Want to be brave?" she said softly. Leo chuckled. "You're already braver than you think." Nova shook her head no. "Still scared sometimes." "That's okay," Leo replied. "Being brave doesn't mean you're never scared. It means you don't let fear stop you." Nova held her star pendant. Feeling stronger just by touching it, she decided that one day she would be as brave as the stars in the sky. Even if they looked small, they shone bright in the darkness. She wanted to shine like that too. That night, before sleeping, Nova sat by the window. She looked at the countless stars outside. Each one seemed to call to her. She whispered to herself, "I'm Nova, a new star." And for the first time, she believed it. Leo, watching from his chair, smiled proudly. He didn't just save a scared little alien girl. He helped a new star find her place in the sky, and in his heart, he knew his promise was just beginning. He would protect this star for as long as he lived. The stars were calm that night, but sometimes even the brightest skies hide dangers in the dark. Nova sat at the window. Tracing the shape of her star pendant with her fingers, she felt peaceful, safer than ever before. Leo was nearby, checking the ship's systems, humming quietly to Nova. It felt like the ship was a floating home, far away from the cruel markets and cages. She had started dreaming about adventures, places she could see with Leo. She didn't know that trouble was already watching them from the shadows of space. Without warning, the ship's lights flickered. A loud alarm echoed through the corridors. Nova jumped in fear, her heart pounding. Leo stood up fast, his eyes sharp and focused. "Stay here, Nova," he said firmly, grabbing a blaster from the wall. Nova froze. "What is happening?" she asked, her voice shaking. Leo glanced at the blinking control panel. "Raiders," he said with a frown. "Bad people who attack ships in space." He loaded his blaster quickly. "I need to stop them before they board us." Nova's fear returned. Like a heavy wave, she grabbed his sleeve. "Don't go." "What if they hurt you?" Leo smiled weakly. "I'll be fine, little star. I faced worse." But Nova didn't feel reassured. She watched him rush to the door, his footsteps quick and heavy. She sat there, trembling. But then her eyes landed on the small maintenance vent on the floor. She remembered how she used to crawl through small spaces when hiding. Her mind raced. She was small, fast, and quiet. Maybe she could help. Even if she was scared, she didn't want to sit and do nothing. Taking a deep breath, Nova crawled into the vent. It was tight and dusty, but she pushed forward. She could hear heavy footsteps above her, voices shouting, "Find anything valuable." A rough voice barked, "Check the cargo hold." Nova's heart thumped loudly in her chest. She peeked through a vent opening and saw them, tall raiders in dark armor, their faces hidden behind masks. They carried weapons and moved like they owned the place. Leo was hiding behind crates, waiting for the right moment to strike. Nova knew she couldn't fight them directly, but she could distract them. She crawled quietly to another vent that opened near a pile of tools with careful aim. She pushed a heavy wrench through the grate. It fell with a loud clang. The raiders turned their heads. What was that? One of them growled. They moved toward the noise, their backs turned to Leo. Leo didn't waste the chance. He jumped out and fired his blaster, hitting the first raider in the back. The chaos erupted, shots fired everywhere. Nova kept moving through the vents, dropping more tools to confuse the attackers. Each time, the raiders looked the wrong way. Leo used every opening to take them down, one by one. But then, one raider noticed the sounds coming from the vents. "There's something in the walls," he shouted. Nova's eyes widened. She crawled faster, her hands and knees scraping against the metal. She had to keep moving. She had to stay ahead. Suddenly, a loud bang shook the vent. A raider fired at the metal walls, trying to hit her. Nova bit her lip, holding back a scream. She kept crawling, heart pounding. Then she saw a light ahead, an exit vent that opened near Leo. She pushed hard and popped out of the vent. Landing on the floor with a thud, Leo turned, his eyes wide in shock. "Nova, what are you doing?" he shouted before she could answer. A raider aimed at Leo from behind. "Leo, behind you!" Nova screamed. Leo spun around and fired just in time, hitting the raider in the chest, breathing hard. Leo grabbed Nova's arm. "Told you to stay hidden," he said, his voice both angry and scared. But then he saw the fear in her eyes, and his expression softened. "I was scared for you," he whispered, pulling her close. Together, they finished the last of the raiders. The ship became silent again. Except for the alarms still blinking, Leo knelt down, checking Nova for injuries. "You're hurt," he said, seeing small scrapes on her knees. Nova shook her head. "I okay." "I wanted to help," Leo smiled, his eyes warm. "You were very brave, little star," he said softly. "Braver than most adults I've known." Nova felt proud, even though her knees hurt. She looked up at him. "I'm not scared anymore." Leo laughed gently. "Good," he said, "because I think you're a real star now." Nova held her pendant tightly, her chest warm with pride. She had helped, she had faced fear, and she was still here for the first time. She didn't feel small or weak. She felt strong. Together, Leo and Nova started repairing the ship. They worked side by side like a team.
Ow.
Nova's hands were small, but now they were useful. She wasn't just a scared little girl anymore. She was Leo's little star, and soon she knew. They would face the stars together. The ship floated quietly in space. The scars of battle still fresh on its metal skin. Inside, the air was calm. Again, but something heavy still hung between Leo and Nova. They worked together fixing wires, replacing broken panels, but neither spoke much. Leo watched Nova from the corner of his eye. She was brave during the attack, but he knew she had questions, and deep inside, he knew it was time to tell her the truth. Later that night, Leo sat near the window. Looking at the endless stars, Nova sat across from him, her little hands holding the star pendant on her neck. The ship was quiet, except for the soft hum of machines. Finally, Nova broke the silence. "Leo," she whispered, "why? You really saved me?" Leo didn't answer right away. He took a deep breath, his eyes lost in the stars outside. "Because I owe the stars something," he said quietly. Nova tilted her head, confused. "I don't understand," she said. Leo smiled faintly. But his eyes looked sad. "Before I met you, Nova, I was not a good man," he began. "I was a soldier for a powerful human faction. We were sent to distant planets." He looked down at his hands, his voice heavy. "Our job was to clear out places. And that meant fighting, capturing, even destroying alien villages." Nova's heart sank, her fingers tightening around her pendant. "You hurt aliens?" she asked, her voice tiny. Leo nodded slowly. "Yes, I did," he admitted. "I thought it was normal. I thought I was just doing my duty." He looked straight at her now, his eyes filled with regret. "But one day, on a planet called Lyria, I saw something that broke me." He paused, gathering his words. There was a village, full of small alien families, not fighters, just people. His voice cracked a little. "I saw soldiers take children away. Put them in cages just like you were." Leo clenched his fists. "I wanted to stop them, but I didn't. I was too scared of my commanders." Nova listened silently, her chest heavy. She imagined herself in that village, the fear, the crying, the cages. She could feel it, because she had lived it that night. Leo continued. "I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing their faces, especially the children. I ran away," he said softly. "I left the army, left everything behind, and promised myself that if I ever had the chance, I would save at least one." He looked at Nova, his voice shaking. "When I saw you in that market, so small and scared, I knew I couldn't walk away again. I didn't want to be that coward anymore. So I bought you, but not because you're a thing," he said. "I bought you to save you." Nova's eyes filled with tears, but they didn't fall. She understood now. Leo wasn't just a kind human. He was a broken one, trying to fix his past by saving her. "Do you regret it?" she asked softly. Leo smiled, a gentle, warm smile. "Never," he said. "Saving you was the best thing I've done." Nova crawled closer and hugged him tightly. Leo's arms wrapped around her, his grip firm yet soft. "You saved me," she whispered. "And you saved me too," Nova. Leo replied, his voice thick with emotion. For a long time, they sat there, holding each other in the quiet of the ship. The stars outside seemed to shine brighter, like they were watching over them. Nova felt safe in his arms, not just because he was strong, but because he was honest. He had hurt others, but now he was trying to be better, and Nova decided she would help him, just like he helped her. After a while, Nova looked up, her eyes serious. "Can we save others too?" she asked. Leo looked surprised. "You want to?" Nova nodded. "Yes." "Others like me? Still in cages? Still scared?" Leo smiled proudly. "Then that's what we'll do." He said, "We'll travel the stars, help those who can't help themselves." Nova's heart swelled with pride and excitement. She was not just a rescued girl anymore. She was part of something bigger, a new mission, and she wouldn't be afraid anymore. That night, Leo showed Nova the star maps, planets, routes, and secret places where others like her might be trapped. "We'll start here," he pointed. "I heard of a colony where slaves are sold." Nova nodded firmly. "I'm ready," she said. Leo chuckled. "We'll need to teach you how to fly first." Nova laughed, the sound light and free. She never imagined she could laugh this way, but with Leo, with her new name, her new life, everything felt possible. She was not number 6. She was Nova, and together they would light up the darkest parts of the galaxy. The engines of Leo's ship hummed like a deep, steady heartbeat in the dark of space. But inside, there was a different kind of energy, one filled with excitement and hope. Nova stood on the deck, her silver fingers resting on the control panel. Her blue eyes sparkled as she watched the blinking lights. She wasn't just watching anymore. She was learning, moving buttons, steering slightly under Leo's careful eye. Leo stood beside her, arms crossed, a proud smile on his face. "Not bad." "Little star," he said. "You're picking this up faster than I thought." Nova giggled softly, her pendant bouncing on her chest. "I want to learn everything," she said. "I want to fly, fight, and help others." Leo nodded, knowing her determination was real. She wasn't the scared little girl from the market anymore. She was growing, changing, just like a new star shining brighter each night. As the ship sailed through the stars, Leo and Nova made plans. They marked secret trading routes, dangerous pirate zones, and hidden colonies where slaves were kept. Nova listened carefully, memorizing every place Leo mentioned. She wanted to save them, every caged child, every lost soul, because she knew what it felt like to be nothing but a number. One evening, as they floated near a quiet planet, Leo brought Nova to the window. "See that?" He pointed to a small glowing world. "That's Kiranine, a free colony where no one is allowed to own slaves." Nova's eyes widened. "A place where everyone is free?" she asked. Leo smiled. "Yes, it's rare, but it exists." Nova's heart warmed. She wanted to see it with her own eyes one day. As days turned into weeks, Nova's skills grew. She learned to pilot, fix engines, and even fire small weapons. Leo taught her patiently, always encouraging, never harsh, and every night they shared stories by the window. Leo told her about the stars, the planets, the things he had seen. Nova listened like every word was a treasure. She was building dreams. Piece by piece. Then one day the ship's radar beeped loudly. Leo checked the screen, his face turning serious. "A slave ship," he muttered. Nova stood beside him. "Can we stop them?" she asked eagerly. Leo looked at her, her eyes shining with courage. "Do you really want to help?" he asked. Nova nodded without hesitation. "Yes," she said. "No one else should feel what I felt." Leo smiled proudly. "Then let's do it, little star." They prepared quietly, checking weapons, systems, escape plans. Leo gave Nova a small communicator. "If things go wrong, you hide and call me," he said firmly. Nova agreed, but deep down, she wanted to fight beside him. The ship approached the slavers silently, hiding in the shadow of an asteroid. Leo and Nova sneaked aboard through a docking tunnel. Inside, the air was cold and smelled like metal and fear. They saw cages filled with small alien children, their eyes dull and empty. Nova's heart ached seeing them. She saw herself in their faces, scared and hopeless without wasting time. Leo and Nova moved quickly, disabling guards one by one. Nova crawled through vents again, using her small size to surprise the slavers. She dropped tools, made noise, and confused them. Leo fought bravely, his blaster precise. Together, they worked as a perfect team. Finally, they reached the main control room. What? Nova pressed the buttons just as Leo taught her, unlocking all the cages. The children slowly stepped out, unsure if it was real. Nova stepped forward and smiled gently. "You're free now," she said softly. The children stared at her glowing blue eyes and the star pendant around her neck. They saw hope. They followed her, trusting her. Leo watched proudly as Nova guided them back to the ship when they were all safe aboard. Nova turned to Leo. "We did it," she said, her voice full of joy. Leo smiled wide. "No, Nova," he said. "You did it." The ship soared away from the slavers, leaving them powerless and broken. Nova stood at the window, watching the stars. The children sat around her, listening as she played the music box. Soft melodies filled the air for the first time. Those children smiled. They weren't numbers anymore. They were people. Saved, just like Nova once was. Leo walked up beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder. "What's next, Captain Nova?" he asked playfully. Nova looked up, her eyes shining like the stars. "We find more," she said proudly. "More people to save, more stars to light up, and together." They sailed forward into the endless sky, not as a soldier and a slave, but as family, a man searching for redemption, and a little star shining brighter every day. Because sometimes the smallest lights can brighten the darkest corners of the universe.